Thank you, Fabiola. First of all, I won't be innovative, but I would like to thank Luis and all the organizing committee for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to make the presentation today. If I am too long, the dinner is coming soon. Bring me a beer here and I will understand that I should shorten. So my presentation today will be about the modeling of thermoviscoelastic behavior of asphalt mixes. Here is the outline of my presentation. So I will speak about the characterization of this property. I will try to explain you how we model it in my laboratory. Then I will present some example. First of all, how to calibrate the model. Then how we can use the model, for example, to study the effect of constituent on the behavior, or to study the behavior of pavement, structural analysis. And also I will try to present you not a new test, but a new method applied to bituminous mixes, which is called modal analysis. As you may know, there is important aspects for bituminous layers which are listed below. So classically, stiffness and evolution with time temperature should be determined. You must know also the fatigue and damage law evolution, the permanent deformation if you want to deal with rutting, and crack and crack propagation, especially at low temperature. So this important aspect could be summarized on this scheme. It was proposed by Professor Di Benedetto a long time ago, but it's still interesting to present and it's quite easy to understand. So on the horizontal axis, you have the number of cyclic loading that you will apply to your material or to your pavement. And on the vertical axis, you have the strain amplitude. So you can, if you remain in the low strain amplitude and with the number of cycles limited, then you will have a behavior that you can estimate to be linear viscoelastic. If you increase strain, then you will make some nonlinearity appear. If you increase the number of cycles, then you will have another phenomenon that will appear, which is fatigue. And rutting, you have to give some cycle close to the failure limit. This is a scheme, obviously, and you should take the border, not like very determined border, but much like border that would evaluate in function of the temperature, for example. And if you want to study all this behavior for bituminous mixes, then you will have to take care of study all the all the phenomena, mechanics phenomena that are listed on the left of the scheme. For example, if you want to determine fatigue, you will have to apply some cycles. Then you will have to take care of self-heating, thixotropy, healing, so on, before being able to characterize fatigue damage. So these phenomena were observed first, and so they need to be studied. So today, my presentation will focus on linear viscoelasticity. I want to present you the approach that we have at my laboratory, where we consider the linear viscoelastic behavior as the signature of the material, and then you can characterize how this signature evaluates in function of damage, in function of nonlinearity, and so on. And then I will present you how to use modeling to better interpret some tests or to better understand some behavior of the material and structure. So I go to the first point, how can we characterize linear viscoelastic behavior? So, as you may know, to characterize such behavior, you perform some what is called complex modulus test. In our lab, we perform a test on asphalt mix and asphalt asphalt and mastic. You will need to use different geometries according to the material that you want to test. You have here two geometries. This is what we use in our lab. Tension compression test on a cylindrical specimen, or what we call annular shear rheometer, which is a rheometer with a big size that allows to test asphalt and mastics. The main point is that we try to use homogeneous test, so that homogeneous test means that you have a uniform stress and strain in the specimen, so that what you will measure at the outside of the specimen will give you what happened inside the specimen. And so you can directly access to the rheological behavior of the material without assuming any behavior. Here you have the geometry, also schematic. For tension compression test, you will have to measure the stress, the strain, axial stress and axial strain. And for the what we call the rheometer, shear rheometer, you have here the geometry, so with a quite big specimen. And if you go on the next scheme, then you will be how the solicitation, the load, apply on the specimen. So you will shear the specimen as shown on the scheme. So, if you want to perform complex modulus test, the principle is quite simple. You will apply a load and you will have the response of the specimen as strain, for example. For mix, you will get the complex modulus, which is the complex Young's modulus. It's characterized as a ratio of the two amplitude between load and strain, and you have also the phase angle to be determined. For asphalt and mastic, you will get the shear complex modulus, and you can, if you make some hypothesis on the position ratio, then you can go to the complex modulus, complex Young's modulus. This is quite simple, and this is to characterize the behavior of the material in 1D. Why 1D? Because you only get the response in one direction of the specimen that you load in one direction. You will perform tests at different temperature. Here you have what we perform in my lab. What is interesting to note is that you have different tests at the same temperature at the beginning and at the end of the test. Here it is 15 degrees. And for each temperature, you will have a frequency sweep. The idea is that you determine the complete behavior of the material for any temperature and any frequency, at least on the very wide ranges. If you want to improve your test, then the first improvement is to get the response of the specimen no more in 1D but in 3D. If you suppose that your material behave as an isotropic material, then you will only need to add a measurement in blue on the picture. This means that you will have to measure the radial deformation. And then with the radial deformation, you will get access to the Poisson ratio, which is complex also. I don't give more details. So this is for the isotropic case. If you only need two parameters to obtain the complete behavior linear viscoelastic behavior of the material. This means that you just need the complex position ratio and complex ion modulus. This is with the isotropic hypothesis, but if you consider how is produce the mix on the layer compacted vertically, then it's not difficult to imagine that isotropic is not a good assumption. So you can improve also the test to get the anisotropic behavior of the specimen, of the material. But in that case, you will need to perform different loading in different direction and get the response in different direction at each time on the same specimen. This is quite difficult to perform. We have performed such test on almost identical specimen. I won't detail this in my presentation today, but this is an improvement that could be imagined. So now that you have characterized your material, you need to model it. I will go quickly on this section, as I was told not to show too much equation. So there's some years ago, a model was developed at my laboratory. It's a 2S2P1D model, and it was to use and to characterize the behavior in 1D of the bituminous material. It could be applied for asphalt, mastic, mixes. You have the number of constants that are needed, 7 constants if you want to determine the complex modulus at one temperature and one frequency. And if the time temperature superposition principle is valid, then you will add as many constants as you need to translate this property. And more recently, we developed the model to take into account the 3D behavior, always with isotropy hypothesis. Then you had it's 2 or 3 constants to add. Here are the equation of the model in 1D. The most important is maybe to look at the scheme on the right, and which represent the Kolkol plane of the complex ion modulus. You have the imaginary part of the complex modulus in function of the real part, and on this scheme you can see different parameters and their influence of on the curve. I will go deep further in the explanation in the next session. So I jump now to the case of the model in 3D, always with isotropy hypothesis. Then you will need 3 constants to add, and you have the equation of the complex modulus and the position ratio at the bottom of the slide. Maybe this is not the main, the most important equation to look. The most important equation are here, and it's not well written, so I jump to the next session. So now I will show you how you can calibrate easily this model, and I will take an example on a multi-recycled asphalt pavement. So this was done during a project which is called ImproveMur, and the objectives of this project is to study the multi-recycling of mixes. So I will present here only 3 asphalt mix of the project. Here they are. So in green you have the reference mix with no wrap and with a binder which is 3550 penetration grade. And then you have another mix which contains 40% of wrap, and another one which also contains 40% of wrap. The only difference between these two mixes is that The first mix is made with wrap that come from pavement milling, and the second mix contain wrap, and the wrap comes from the first mix that was aged artificially, I would say, using a procedure that was determined during RILEM International Research Group. So these mix were produced in the lab. They had the same grading curve, the same total binder, and so on. So here are the results. So in Kolkol plan, so you have the imaginary part of the complex modulus in function of the real part. We have two sets of data because there is repetition in the same material. So this is the first material, reference material with no wrap. The second material, 40% of wrap, which call it one cycle of recycling. And the second material, which contain 40% of wrap, but 2 cycles of recycling. There is not a lot of things to say about this curve. No clear tendency can be determined. Maybe the only thing to underline is that you can see that the time temperature superposition is verified for this material. As you can, the data are plotted along a unique curve. Here you have the two values. We call it E00 and E0. E00 is when the temperature is very high and the frequency very low, and E0 is on the contrary, where the temperature is very low and the frequency very high. This is how you can determine these two values for the model, which are the two constants among two constants of the model. Then I propose you to plot another Kolkol plan, but this time you will consider no more the complex modulus, but the normalized complex modulus. Equation is written on the right. You can see very well, but the normalized complex modulus is in fact E star minus E00, and you divide all this by E0 minus E00. And when you plot in this axis, then this is what you obtain. You can see that with a rather good approximation, you have only one curve that could determine the behavior of all the specimens and all the material. This curve is the 2s2p1d model that was fit on this data. And with this representation, you can determine 4 other parameters of the model. These parameters are listed here. So you will get the same constant for all the mix, all the studied mix. As I told you, the time temperature superposition principle was verified, so you can go to the master curve. Here you have a scheme how to build the master curve with the shift factor. And classically, we use the William-Landau-Ferry equation to translate this behavior. So now I go to the master curve of the mix. The reference temperature chosen was 15 degrees for all the material. You have the first material, the second one, and the third one here. And here on this representation, you can determine the 3 other parameters that you need to complete the determination of the complete the determination of the model. So you have E0 and E00 that I already show you on the Kolkol plan, and you have also the last constant, tau, that is the only constant that is dependent on the temperature in the model. So with this constant, you will be able to translate the time temperature superposition principle. Yes. Yes. So now you have four constants that are identical for the mixes, and you have the three other constants. We decide to study how they change in function of the mix. And we see that if you plot this constant in function of the voids, the void content in the specimen, then you can get quite good linear approximation for E0 and for the tau parameters. But for the E00 parameter, you have no correlation, and the parameter is rather small and is quite difficult to determine. So, this could be done to study the evolution of the linear viscoelastic behavior. This model can be used to study the evolution in function of different parameters. Here I choose a study on the behavior of mastic, which contain hydrated lime. The idea was not to study hydrated lime in mastic, but rather to study hydrated lime in mix. This was made during the PhD thesis. But to understand what happened, we decided to perform tests on mastic. So the mix were designed contained what is indicated on the scheme. You have asphalt, the filler, which is made of limestone, and one part of the filler could be replaced by hydrated lime. And we made the mastic with the same composition, considering the mass of the constituent. That means that you will have the same mass of filler and lime and the same mass of asphalt as in the mix, in the mastic. So we produce one mastic without lime and two mastic with lime. But what happens is that you must know that density of lime and density of limestone filler is not the same. So if you change limestone for the same mass of lime, you will not have the same volume of filler. So to study this phenomenon or this effect, we also produce two other mastic without lime, but this time we keep the same volume of filler as the mastic who contain lime. So here you have the table of what you have in mastic. We have 5 mastic produced. So if you take the first line, you have the mastic without lime and with lime identical to what happened in a mix. And in green, you have the two other mastics that were created to keep the volume constant and to be able to compare to what happened in volume in the mastic who contain lime. So, always in Colcol plan, I show you what happened for the bitumen or the asphalt and what happened for the 5 mastics. You can see that in this plan, I still present the normalized shear complex modulus. So you can see that the bitumen or the asphalt and the mastic have the same identical curve in this plan. So that means that you have the same 4 parameters to define this curve. And as previously, we will go to compare the other parameters, the 3 other parameters, and mainly the G0, which is complex modulus at high frequency and very low temperature, and the parameter 2. So here you have what happened for the bitumen, and this is plotted in function of the volume of filler, the ratio of the volume of filler in the volume of mastics. So for the bitumen, or asphalt, sorry, for the first mastic with a quantity of lime, and for the second mastic with another quantity of lime. And now, if you compare with the mastic which were produced to keep the same volume, then you will have the same ratio of volume as for the lime, but this time the mastic do not contain any lime. So you have the two mastic here, and you can see that the evolution which was clear, or almost clear, for the mastic with lime are not so clear now for the mastic without lime. So here I present you what happened, at least for the parameter to 0. Then you have in blue the effect of the filler, of the volume of filler which is increased in the mastic. And in red, the arrow in red show what happened when you had lime in the mastic with the same volume, keeping the same volume, that you see that the lime effect is not so clear at that time. So mainly what happened in the mastic, we observed reinforcement, but when adding lime, but a big part of this reinforcement, in fact, is explained only by the fact that you change the volume of filler in the mastic. What was also observed is that lime effect depends on the equivalent frequency, and the effect is more pronounced at high temperature and low frequency. So now I go to another point which deals with analysis of pavement using a linear viscoelastic model. So this was done in a study where the objective of the study was to evaluate a highway network. It was with the company AREA. So this company used an apparatus which was developed in France and which doesn't exist anymore in France. And so we are obliged to pay company from Spain or from Belgium to come in France and to perform the test. So this apparatus can go to 18 km per hour, and it will measure the deflection under his rear axle, which is loaded at 13 tons. And the structure analysis is made from two parameters, the deflection and the curvature radius obtained from the test. So what we do in this study, we decide to perform calculations. So we get some material in situ, we perform a laboratory test, we use our model to get the property of the material, and then we perform a calculation. And what was done in situ, we have obviously we perform measurement with this apparatus, curviometer, and we also try to validate our approach, and we have instrumented two sections in the pavement with a strain gauge. I will not detail this part, I will just go to the measurement made with the curviometer. Here you have this apparatus, and you can see how it works. So you have a chain that put accelerometer on the road, and the wheel will pass above this accelerometer. And what is tricky in this apparatus is that when the accelerometer is put on the road, it will not move. Only the apparatus will pass above. This is why there is a chain that put the sensor on the road. You can see in white some sun that was only to well determine where passed the wheel, and the paint is only to indicate where the sensor, strain gauge, in the pavement. So, as I told you, we go and get some slab, and then we core the slab to obtain specimen and test specimen, and we perform our approach. That means that we perform a complete linear viscoelastic characterization, and then we model we model the behavior of the material. This was integrated in FEM calculation. So we model the pavement structure, and we obtained the deflection and the strain in each course. The strain was compared with what was measured with the strain gauge in situ. We obtained quite good results in comparison, during the comparison. And now I go with directly to the deflection. So here you have two curves. The distance, the horizontal axis measures the distance to the wheel of the apparatus. So in green you have the deflection that is measured from the curviometer. In fact, it's not directly measured. As I told you, you put accelerometer on the road. So to get the deflection, you need to integrate the vertical acceleration. And so to integrate, then you will need two parameters, C1 and C2, two constants. The constant considered by the owner and the companies that perform the test is that deflection at 3 meters is null, and the derivative of the deflection at 3 meters is also null. So here you have where these constants are chosen. So in grid, we obtain the deflection from the curviometer, and in blue or in black, you have what we obtain from the student obtained from his viscoelastic calculation. So when we saw that for the first time, we shout at the student and say that it was not able to make a right calculation. Then we decide to think a little, and we have seen that maybe there was a problem in the two chosen constant when the classical analysis is performed. So we decide to replace this constant, C1 and C2, but what we obtain during our calculation. So that means that we take the value of the deflection and the value of the derivative of the deflection at 3 meters, but these values are issued from our calculation. And you can see that we have a perfect comparison, perfect match between the two curves. Okay, and this was done for other sections that were tested. And you can see that this works quite well. So, thanks to this linear viscoanalysis, we can correct what was measured and what was given by the company. Don't misunderstand my word. This apparatus is, I think, a great apparatus. But you have to take care of the analysis that you made when you get the measurement and when you try to analyze them. So now I go to the last point that I want to treat. Still no beer, so I think I will have time to finish. I want to explain you a new approach to perform dynamic analysis of materials. You know that you can perform or you can determine the property of materials using classical, I call it classical, but it's not so classically performed for bituminous mixture, more classical for other material. But so you can perform wave propagation test. That means that you will measure the celerity of the wave in your material. So for this, you can perform at least two tests, like I show you. The first test is a test where you will measure the celerity of the waves. You need to register what you impulse, and you need to register what you will get at the extremity of the specimen. So you need two piezoelectric sensors, an emitter and a receptor. And another possibility is that you create a shock and you let the specimen decide what to do, and he will have a resonant frequency, and from this resonant frequency you can get the celerity. So this is a test, a dynamic test, where you need a back analysis, because you don't measure directly the property of the specimen. What you measure is only wave celerity. And from this wave celerity, you will perform back analysis, and you will get the mechanical property of your material. To perform this back analysis, first of all, you need to make an hypothesis about how behave your materials. You need to choose. Classically, you can perform elastic. That means that you will assume that the material behave elastically. For bituminous material, you can improve your analysis and consider that it will behave as a viscoelastic material. And then from these two tests, you can get some properties. So here the complex modulus, the value of the complex modulus at very fixed frequency, and you can get a different point on your master curve if you change temperature. So this was what we perform, or what we try to perform for some years. But I want to show you, sorry, not to propose, but to show you a new test which is performed on acoustic foam. In acoustic, it's quite well known, and this test, or this method, was applied by Gudmason, which made his PhD thesis in Sweden at KTH, and I will explain you. We are working on this topic too. So you need, it will be almost like a resonant test that I proposed before, but you need to perform an impact with a hammer, and in the hammer you have a piezoelectric sensor that will give you the load that you apply in your specimen. You also need an accelerometer on the other side to know how will vibrate your specimen. You can perform different type of test with a longitudinal wave mode, with a longitudinal wave, flexural wave, and torsional wave. It depends on how you create your impact on the specimen and where you measure the displacement. This is what we perform in my lab, and this is what the specimen that was used in KTH for the same analysis. So what you measure is the force, the impact that you create. This is the first graph that I show you, the force in function of the time, and you can get you transform your signal with a Fourier transformation, and you get what happened, the amplitude of your signal in function of the frequency. On the other side, you will get the vibration of your material, and so you have the acceleration in function of time. And as for the force, the load, then you will perform a Fourier transform to get what happened in function of the frequency. And now the tricky part is that you combine these two spectrum, And you will get, if you make the ratio in the acceleration of what you measure, so below, at the bottom, in a function of the force, the load, then you will obtain the frequency response function. And from this frequency response function, you can see that you have a different peak that will appear. And you can perform, or you can try to perform a back analysis to obtain this signature of your material and specimen, because it's geometry dependent. So to obtain this signal, this function, you perform a back analysis, and to perform the back analysis, you need a finite element modelization. So you will perform a finite element modelization with considering the material which is linear viscoelastic. In our case, we use the 2s2p1d model, and the result of your calculation will be the frequency response function. For example, for the longitudinal mode, you create your impact, you put your accelerometer, and on the right you have what happened for one frequency. And you can build like that what happened for each frequency. And if you optimize the parameter or the constant of your model, then you can fit perfectly to what is obtained experimentally. This is what we have done here. So I show you some data. In the data point are what we have measured with a classical complex modulus test. We have performed also fitting with our 2s2p1d model. And I don't know if you can see very well, but there is two curves, and the second curve is directly obtained by the method that I showed you before. This is with a hammer, create an impact, and directly measure with an accelerometer on the other side. So this method works very well, and is really promising. The idea to finish about this method is that at the beginning we need to have an operator to hit the specimen with the hammer, but now we have a completely automated system, and you can perform this test, which is very quick to perform. You just need maybe 1 or 2 seconds to hit the specimen maybe 5 times and measure the acceleration on the other side. 5 times that enable to make some average of the measurement. And with this, you can make the test when you perform other classical tests. I don't know, fatigue test or so on. And so you can follow how change the linear viscoelastic properties during any other test. So I finished with my conclusion. So I try to show you the importance of reliable characterization of the linear viscoelastic material, property of the material, and a good modeling. I try to show you our approach in my lab to perform or to get the signature, the viscoelastic signature of the material on a wide range of frequency and temperature, and then to obtain a good modeling on this range. To go further, we developed also from this model, we developed also a different approach. Especially, we have developed a method to obtain the properties from mix directly if you have the property for asphalt. This is true in both directions. You can also study with this model and this approach nonlinearity, thixotropy, etc., which are really important phenomena to take into account during fatigue test. We also improve the model, and from 2s2p1d we can go to viscoelastoplastic model. And we also develop a method to implement this model in structure, in FEM code to perform structure calculation. So this is other stories I don't have time to develop, but this is what we are able to do. So thank you for your attention.